All right, we're live. Do you see
Awesome.
do you see the countdown on your end?
I do.
Okay. All right, cool. We're good. I see you, you see me. We are good. Thank you, Mike, so much for hanging out with me on this Thursday.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so what's been going on today?
Whole lot of work trying to survive the heat. Hit a nice chilly 111 degrees in Arizona today. So we got everybody out of the field early. Had a nice manager's lunch with my two GMs and got some work done and hopped on a podcast with you.
No, I appreciate it. I actually got a question. So you said it was a nice chilly day in Arizona. It is so hot here in Michigan. It's only 95, but it's been tough. Like, when do you guys start in the morning to try to beat this heat?
We get to our first house at like 6 or 6:30 in the morning, depending on the technician. Obviously we have to contact customers to make sure we're okay to show up that early. A lot of people are still sleeping or have toddlers that are sleeping, but when it's this hot, people in Arizona understand because if we're out there at the hottest part of the day, it is like literally deadly. Like people will die of heat stroke out in this heat. So we get out early, we get done early, and the team can go home and take a cold shower and a nap on the couch and stay inside in the air conditioning for the rest of the day.
So when you're reaching out to your customers, you just send a message. You say, "Hey, listen, it's hot. Is there any way we can start at 6 a.m.? Do you want a text message beforehand, or can we just show up?" Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I've made it a point over the years. It's one of the key factors of the business is that we establish a personal relationship with the customers as much as we can. So, um, owner or otherwise, like I still text my customers directly. You know, Obviously not every single customer. We've reached a point where we're big enough. I don't know them all personally now, like I'd like to, but between myself and my GMs, we work really hard to make sure we have that kind of a relationship so that I can be somewhat informal, but still professional and just text them and be like, hey, Erica, now that it's getting a little bit hotter, we're trying to get a jump on the day so we're not out in the hottest part of the day.
Uh,
Would it be okay if we started coming by at 6 a.m.? And really, this last go around, we just made the shift like 2-3 weeks ago, and I think we had two customers complain about it and give pushback. One of them because she had toddlers that sleep until 7, and she didn't want them woken up early. And another one just simply didn't think she would be up early enough to unlock the gate.
oh,
So I convinced her that I would go buy one of those magnetic lock boxes with a key and put it underneath her electrical panel. And she said that was fine. So really, out of all of our customers that we had to move, only one of them did I have to reroute in the schedule. And we only pushed her back like 4 stops. So we're still in the area, but that put us there closer to 7 instead
no,
of
that's
6.
cool. That's cool. I'm gonna pause there because we got some scoopers in the house. We got Bree, we got Steven, we got Courtney. What's up?
What up,
This is
guys?
really cool. So Bree said, "Hey y'all." Steven Simmons said, "Yo." Courtney said, "Hi friends." And Bree is really excited that she's able to watch it live. She shooketh. All right, there's a couple.
Good first live to watch, Bree. Good first
No,
live.
I'm super excited. So a couple things. You guys that are tuning in, you know what the dealio is. Drop your questions down in the comments because Mike is going to answer. And then if I have anything valuable, I will go ahead. But this is really all about you guys, and this is about Mike. Mike has done some wonderful things with his business and for the community and running the. Am I allowed to talk about the group? Can I say the group name or no? Is it still like I won't say the name. He runs a really
Yeah.
awesome group that is a tight ship. It's a great community, and it's hard. It's really hard to run a group like that. And him and Amanda do a really solid job with it. So I just want to personally thank you for what you've done for the community.
Well, thank you. You've been a active member and a big part of it since we were a wee little group and watched it grow and watched it purge back down to the more active members. And big shout out to Amanda because without her, I don't even think I could run this group anymore. She is a lifesaver for me.
Yeah, she's really sweet. I'm gonna have her on the podcast too, and I believe Justin's on next week, but I haven't asked him if he wants to do a live yet. But we're supposed to be going at like 10 a.m., so I don't know if that's a good time for a live, but I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll see. All right, so we got some questions. Well, Corey, first of all, says, "What's up, PSM gang, gang, gang."
Poop millionaire. What
Yeah.
up? How you doing, Corey?
And then, okay. So Stephen wants to know, how hot was it today for you?
Stephen, have you ever walked on the surface of the sun? Because that's what it felt like today. It is currently 111 degrees out there. I was telling Erica earlier that it was brutal. We started early, ended early, and it like completely wiped me out. You can probably tell how red and flush my face is right now. It's brutal, but this is summers in Arizona, so we survive it so we can have 9 months of beautiful weather the rest of the year. No snow, no ice.
You said no snow. I don't mind the snow. I really don't. That's funny. All right. Courtney wants to know.
I like the look of the snow.
Yeah. So let me, before we get into that, have you ever been in the snow? Like, ever seen it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was born in Chicago and grew up in Colorado, and then came to Arizona in my early 20s. So, I mean, I've lived here longer than anywhere else, but between Illinois and Colorado, I've seen more than my fair share of cold weather. I don't ever want to do it again. Just for snowboarding and random trips. A white Christmas is always nice, but no, I'm over the cold.
Yeah, that's not even guaranteed with a white Christmas. We had a white Halloween once. We're like, really? Snow on Halloween? That's crazy.
I had a few of those in Colorado.
Oh yeah, Colorado's built different. All right, we got some questions. Courtney wants to know, how do you like the Kia Souls for scooping? Now that you mentioned them, that's all she sees all the time.
They are a nice zippy little car. There's not too much to them, but they're fuel efficient. They're a lot roomier on the inside than they look on the outside. My personal choice is a truck because we do haul waste away. So I'm not a big fan of having it in the cab, but beggars can't be choosers. The price tag on the Kia Soul, along with the gas mileage that it gets, makes it a good starter car for the fleet. My goal is eventually to move into probably the Ford Maverick so that we have the good gas mileage, but all the perks of a truck.
Yeah, I thought that she was talking about shoes. I didn't know that this was a vehicle. So
yeah, I have an older Kia Soul that was like our first fleet vehicle, and literally just like a couple weeks ago, just bought a second one that's a little bit newer. So slowly and steadily building our fleet up. Got to catch up with the Joneses, all you guys that have a whole fleet of wrapped vehicles.
dude, it's sweet when they're rolling down. Like, I feel so bad ASS when it's me and like my two girls are driving behind me and it's all three, and then everybody in the downtown is just like looking at these hot pink vehicles. I'm like, ah, yeah.
Right? That's a good brand rep right there. You got a whole convoy of pink vehicles making its own little poop parade.
That is the poop parade. That's hilarious. Oh, I love it. All right. Bree wants to know, do you plan to franchise or keep it independent?
I do not plan to franchise. I've toyed with the idea of licensing branding rights, which would be a little bit different than franchising. More or less finding somebody who wants to run their own scooper business and essentially pay to use the name and branding of Poodini. I don't know entirely what that process would look like, because it would have to be somebody that would be a very good fit, because obviously you're staking the reputation of your brand on the line. But I don't want to jump through all the legal hoops of franchising. I'm not a big fan of the way traditional franchises work. I think if I go down that road, I will probably model things more after Jamie Coons with Pooh Squad. I think he's doing it the right way. Letting people take ownership in it and extending the brand, teaching them the ropes, but making sure that they still fit within the umbrella of what his vision is. And it's not just a money grab who wants to pay me to use this. I think the strength of the brand is important enough that, traditional franchising is not for me. Love the appeal of getting rich off of other people, but I don't want to prey on them. This is my baby. Doesn't matter how big I get, it's a family business. And so if somebody's going to run a different branch or a division of it, so to speak, like they're going to be a part of the family. So it's somebody I'm going to be in contact with regularly, and they have to be the right fit.
No, I agree. If you don't mind me asking, so how did you come up with the Poodini brand and the name? How did that happen?
Believe it or not, I did not come up with it. It came to me. Years and years ago, I was a graphic designer, freelance graphic designer by trade. And when I first launched my freelance business while still in school, somebody found me on Craigslist, and this was all the way back in 2007. Approached me about creating a logo for a company that he called Poodini Pet Waste Removal. Although I think back then it was Poodini Doggy Waste Removal, because he had randomly read something online. Way back then there wasn't that many companies. There was not the resources we have now. So I'm not even sure where he stumbled upon it, but he thought it would be a great idea. Brought it to me. I made him a logo. We were talking marketing, and I loved the idea of it. And he invited me to join the business. He's like, Mike, he's like, I need somebody like you on the team. I don't know how to market this the right way. He's like, but I think it's a gold mine. So we started it together in 2007, built it up. And at the same time, he had a secondary business that was doing like nightclub promotions. That started to really take off. It was way more glamorous than picking up dog poop. So basically he abandoned Poodini and went with that. And I had enough irons in the fire with a full-time job, full-time going to school, and starting my own graphic design business that we basically gave up, let it sit dormant. And as the years went by, working for corporate jobs and hating the 9-to-5 grind. And I kept joking about the idea of, man, I wish I would have just stuck with Poodini, like all these years later, like it would really be booming. And the more I joked about it, the more it just started to stick in my head. And I was like, you know what? I think I should do this. I think I should do it. So almost 8 years ago now, 2017, I pretty much decided, you know what, let's start a scooping business just on the side. It was total, side hustle, a little extra money for the weekend. And I was trying to come up with names. I couldn't use Poodini because that was his name still registered to him. But I'm still friends with the guy. We're in a fantasy football league together, and we were talking about it, and he flat out just offered it to me. He's like, Mike, you were there from day one. Like, I'm not going to do anything with it. I know you'll make it great. Do you want me to sign the LLC over to you? And
dude, that's dope.
F yes. So basically he signed it over. I completely redid the branding because obviously it had been 10 years and my skills and the style and what is popular had changed. So, kind of evolved the Poodini brand. Realistically started from scratch. I mean, I had no customers, no website, no nothing. Immediately locked down the trademark. As soon as the LLC was signed over to me, I started that process because I didn't want anybody else to latch onto that Poodini name. And then it's just been nonstop ever since then. Just built the business up. Got to a point that my weekends were full. I had to hire a helper, got his schedule full. ended up going part-time from my full-time jobs. So I could spend more time doing Houdini, hired 2 more helpers, and just realized that my full-time, or what had been my full-time job, was now holding me back, and made the plunge to put all my time and effort into Houdini, and I've never looked back.
Did they think you were crazy at your full-time job for leaving to go scoop dog poop?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know how it is nowadays, because this industry is a little more well known thanks to, content creators out there spreading the word. But back then it was kind of unheard of. So, people just like, why would you want to do that? And I was like, I don't think it's that bad. Like, I get to work outside. I get to be around dogs. Like, yeah, it's dog poop, but so what? And I think I can make really good money. And, to this day, as most of you know, there are still people that like look down on us, like we're the help, or this is some, just gross job. And like, I laugh, because like half of them, I'm like thinking to myself, you know what? I make more money than you, but cool. Like, your job in an office is way better than mine. So I don't put too much stock in what people think. I care about what my family thinks and what my family needs, and everybody else, like, it's irrelevant. So, obviously, like, I want my people to like me, but at the end of the day, I do this to support my family. So I could care less what Joe Blow driving his Lexus thinks about what I do for a living.
They're always the worst drivers in the Lexuses, by the way. I've been cut off by so many of those.
Lexus, Mercedes, and Tesla.
Oh, the Teslas. Goodness. All right, we got some more people in here. Alex, is it Bossy? He says, lucky temperatures are under normal in Alberta, Canada, 19 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that equates to in Fahrenheit.
I don't know either, but it sounds like it might be cold.
Yeah. All right, Kyle. Thank you for hopping on, Kyle. I know it's late. I want to say it's maybe like 11 o'clock p.m. his time, because he's across the pond.
Well, thank you, Kyle. I appreciate you.
Yeah, Kyle's cool. And then Bree says MAV team in here. What does that stand for?
Maverick.
Oh, the truck?
She's got her little Ford Maverick.
Uh-huh. Nice. You know what? I love, what is it? Stephanie from, is it Turd Nerd, with all of her green Jeeps? Dude, it's so cool. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's some cool branding. I don't like fluorescent green.
And so, yeah, with the Mavericks too. Hopefully they'll come out with some cool colors with the Mavericks, because what I've seen are like those new like pastel, like toned down colors. Muted almost.
Right.
Yeah.
But does it really matter? Because you know that vehicle wraps is where it's at in this business.
Oh, I know.
It doesn't matter what color the truck is. I'm just going to wrap on it.
Yeah, very true. I do have a couple of those. All right. And then Alex says, customers who don't pick up their dog waste most likely won't cut their grass. How do you do business without having a truck and a mower?
Well, that's a good question. In Arizona, it's not as big of a deal. We're not dealing with as much grass and rain. We get the joys of rock and artificial turf, which gets extremely hot in the sun. But we do have the customers that have overgrown grass or overgrown weeds. And it's just part of our terms of service that we will do the best we can, but it is the customer's responsibility to keep a well-maintained lawn. Kind of with the stipulation, if we can't see it, we can't scoop it. So we set that expectation right off the bat. If one of my technicians let me know, like, hey, the weeds are really overgrown in so-and-so's yard, I'm not afraid to contact that customer, send them a message. Hey, so-and-so, looks like the weeds are getting really out of hand in the backyard. It's making it hard for us to find all the piles. Obviously, we're going to do the best we can, but do you think you could get those chopped down before our next visit? 9 times out of 10, the customer already knows. They're embarrassed and they're like, yeah, we're going to get on it. Or they feed me a line about like, oh yeah, like a landscaper was supposed to come this week and he didn't show, so I'm going to get another one out next week. Doesn't really matter. The drill is the same. We're going to do the best we can. And if it becomes a jungle where you have those weeds that are up to your chin and you can't get in the yard, then it's a non-serviceable yard at that point. And, that's part of the terms of service. There's a reason those are in place. Sometimes it's tough love. We always want to do the best we can for our customers, but I don't need anybody getting poked in the eye by a giant weed either while they're out walking around looking for turds.
No. Now I got some follow-up questions. Are ticks a problem in Arizona?
Very seldom,
Okay.
very seldom, because we're not a wooded area.
Okay. Yeah, because here in Michigan with the taller grass and the weeds, that's something we're super concerned about are the ticks because they're really, really bad in our area. Okay.
I'll bet that, and you got to be careful because you don't want to spread those to other yards.
Exactly. And then let's
So,
talk about rock
how do you
scooping.
handle that?
Oh, how do I handle it? Yeah, I pretty much do the same thing. When our scoopers are out, if the grass is long or there's lots of weeds, we take photos of it and then we upload that into our CRM, into the customer like portal thing. So then that way, if say for instance, the customer says like, hey, your scooper missed a pile, we cut the grass and they missed a pile, we can say, well, the grass was up to our knees. We can only scoop what we can see. And then we also send them a message
Right.
and say, hey, so-and-so, the grass was pretty long. We did the best that we could. We'll be able to get anything that was missed next week after the grass has been taken care of. Yeah, same thing.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. And then, so I wanted to know, you mentioned rock scooping. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
It's the bane of every scooper's existence, but it's the norm for us. So where most of the scoopers use their Corona rakes and pans, I hate to say it, we still get down and dirty with a gloved hand and a bucket because it's the most efficient way to get it done. There are some scoopers here that will use the rakes, but they scoop a ton of rock, and then you have customers upset that all their rock is starting to disappear. And now I'm hauling out a 5-gallon bucket that weighs 80 pounds because it's full of rock. Or you're just getting the stuff off the top and there's all these little crumbs down in between the rocks. So it's down and dirty. We slap on some gloves, we get after it, get your lunges and squats in for the day and bag that stuff up and onto the next yard. But it is definitely not fun. It poses its challenge, just not only physical, but trying to spot it, trying to coach up new technicians on how to see it, because sometimes you have multicolored rock and these little nuggets of waste that look like rocks. And so, it comes down to the training and the coaching, approaching the yards from different angles so you can see it from a different angle, different lighting, different shadows. And like any skill, I tell people you can train the infamous brown eye of scooping. The more you do it, the more your eye hones in on being able to tell what's a turd and what's a rock and what's a leaf.
So what's your expectancy for somebody to have a trained eye? Are we talking a month, 3 months? What's the standard with your company?
It really depends on where they start. But generally speaking, within 3 to 4 weeks, they should be doing very well, missing a minimal amount of piles, really actually missing no piles, missing a few pieces maybe, but not full piles. And then after that, it's kind of just, we do regular quality checks. At least once or twice a month on every technician. We'll follow on a route, check 3, 4, 5 yards after they've been there, go rewalk it. If we find anything, we make note of where it is, what the situation was, to look for ways to identify, to help coach them. It's not our goal to just be like, oh, they failed. Let's get rid of them. It's important to invest in your employees and try and get to the root of the problem. Like, why does this person keep missing these ones in the grass, but they're getting the rock good? Or why are they getting all the piles in the grass, but they're struggling so much in the rocks? Sometimes it's a matter of the way they walk the grid. And if you're walking across two different surfaces, it takes some time for your eye to adjust. So, we try and teach them how to break up the yard. Like if it's grass in the middle, all surrounded by rock, go walk the rocks first. When you're done with the rocks, then go do your grid in the grass so that you're always looking at the same surface. But it's always just identifying what those things are and coaching them up. But to answer your question, realistically, within 3 to 4 weeks, they should be what I would call a veteran scooper in terms of their ability to spot it. Obviously, the longer they're with you, the more you can trust in their eyes. But ultimately, I think it comes down to following the procedure. We require the grid to be done multiple times. So like most companies, we do the north-south and then east-west, and then we'll go around and spray. So we're essentially getting 3 passes from different angles to find every pile. If one of our employees is consistently missing piles, we will require them to do a 3rd diagonal grid just to get more angles, get that extra pass. And generally that fixes the problem pretty quickly. Usually when they're struggling that much with missed piles, it's because they're not following the way they were trained. They're walking around aimlessly in circles trying to find it instead of just sticking to the grid. And it's process of elimination. Like we've done enough yards. There's a reason we do it this way. Like, this is why we teach you. Just follow that and you're going to have good success.
No, that's cool. That sounds really good. I like that within a couple weeks. Me, I'm like, maybe we'll see how you're doing in 3 months. And I remember one of my friends was like, no, you're giving them too much time. All right.
How long do you spend training them? Like,
I don't want to.
do you do like multiple week ride-alongs, or?
I'm embarrassed to even tell this. So a week, sometimes 2 weeks I've given them. Like, I have went with somebody for 2 weeks and scooped with them because I'm like, I really, really need this person. And then it didn't work out. So now I try to do at max 5 days, but by like the 3rd day, now I'm like, you should have this figured out by the 3rd day. And if you can't, and if I feel like I have to like mother, because I get like that, like even Crystal told me, she's like, you have to just let them go and see if they can do it by themselves. And if they can't, and if they're really making you the bottleneck as much as you don't want to be, that they're not an independent worker. So just cut them loose. I'm like, okay, all right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We used to go an extended period. I used to do like, 4 or 5 days with them. And honestly, now we do a day and a half. They get one route ride along, one route with myself or a GM going with them for half the route, following in their own vehicle. And then, either at that point they understand the process or they don't.
Yeah.
And we let them finish her out. And again, we don't necessarily stop training there, but there's no point for us to hold their hand.
Yes.
Like Crystal said, they're either going to be an independent worker or they're not. And we're still going to coach them up whenever needed. If they're struggling, if they're, timing is really slow and they're only doing a couple of yards per hour. Again, we'll go with them. We'll go to a few houses. Like, okay, let's identify what's slowing them. How can we speed you up, make you more efficient? Give them all the tools to succeed, but ultimately it's on them to take advantage. And if they don't do that, then they're probably not the right fit for us, because I'm not here to, babysit. Like, you're hired to do a job. We pay very well. Like, there's a certain level of expectation, and we're going to give you all the tools and the coaching and support that you need to be successful, but you need to take accountability and just make it happen. And for some people, it's not a great fit, and that's okay. Sometimes you have to weed through those to find the ones that are the right fit.
And we know we've went through a lot of people.
Whoa, you totally just sounded like a robot right there.
Do I sound like a robot still? Am I good?
Yep.
Okay, if that happens again,
now you sound like a robot.
What about now? Do I sound like a robot?
No, now you fixed it.
All right, I'm good now, or my robot?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, yeah, my board's tweaking. It's losing its mind over here. That's all right. All right, moving on to the next
Hey,
question.
it's on par for the course. How many technical difficulties did we have last week trying to set this up?
All of them. All right, Corey wants to know, what
Every
is your 5 and 10-year business goal?
Woo, good question, Corey. I'll be honest with you. My business goal doesn't go out 10 years. I am on the 3 to 5 year plan. Within 3 to 5 years, I want to be over $1 million in revenue business. I think it's a very attainable goal. And at that point, I'm either going to hand the business off to my successor, my new GM that I hired. She's going to have first dibs at buying this. If not, I'm going to sell to someone, I am sure. My plan may change because when we're $1 million revenue and we have pieces in place and I'm not working so much and making a killing, I may change my mind. But if I can be $1 million in revenue, I know kind of where that values my company. And I'm 45 years old. In 5 years, I'm going to be 50. I would really like to be sitting on a beach in Costa Rica by 50. That is my plan.
Oh, that sounds nice. I like it. All right, Bree wants to know, what is your biggest marketing tool you utilize? Facebook ads, Google, Instagram?
My customers is my biggest marketing tool that I use. It may not be my most expensive, but I don't know if everybody was on before when you and I were talking in the preliminary about how I make it a point to foster a very personal relationship with my customers. We try not to just be, X no-name business that comes in and picks up poop. My customers know me on a first name basis. They know I'm the owner of Poodini. And so I work really hard to maintain that, make sure that we provide the absolute best customer service and stand out from our competition that doesn't have that same personal feel. And what that does is that my customers not only refer us every chance that they get, but anytime there's a post on Facebook and somebody's talking about needing a pooper scooper, everybody gets their recommendations, but like 30 people will chime in screaming Poodini is the best on there. So that is probably my biggest marketing tool because that is, it's a referral with a ringing endorsement. I do regularly use Google ads. I don't use Facebook ads anymore. And if you've seen in some of the forums that we're all on, I got hacked on Facebook several years ago, hacked my personal and my business account. And despite the fact that I got Facebook to acknowledge that I was hacked and refund that money, I got permanently banned from advertising. And after appealing it 3 different times, still couldn't get it reversed. And now it won't let me appeal it anymore. So I was like, F you, Facebook. Google will get all my money now.
Yeah.
So Google's my primary one. And I really focus a lot more on the SEO side of Google than I do on just Google ads. I've tried really hard to build that into my website, get backlinks, make sure I'm putting myself out there on the internet. I joke with Erica that she's been chasing me for 2 years to get me on her podcast because I really don't like to be in front of the camera. But even something like this, Erica's going to give me a little backlink, which will give me some SEO juice, keep me on the top rankings of Google and in those map pack bubbles. So we get a lot of organic traffic that way. I do have an active social media with Facebook and Insta, but those are more just brand awareness and, building up that relationship again, interacting with the fan base. I don't really use them much for marketing. You don't ever see me sales pitching out of my Facebook page or my Instagram. It's usually sharing pictures of the dogs that we see, sharing little testimonials that customers have left reviews, things like that. And then, of course, we're diving into the vehicle wraps. I've got the new fleet vehicle signed off on the wrap design. It's in production. So in a couple weeks, I'm going to have a fully wrapped up Houdini mobile on the road, being a mobile billboard. So yeah, it's, in my opinion, there isn't one perfect marketing tool. I think you need to hit it from all angles, especially in this day and age. Coming up in the marketing and design and advertising world many, many years ago, there was an old rule that was called the 5 touches of marketing back then, meaning that you had to touch a customer 5 times before they would consider purchasing your brand. So they would have to see your website, see a vehicle, see a flyer, see a business card, talk to someone. Those were their 5 touches. But now, in the day of the internet and so many things in your face all the time, the oversaturation, realistically, I think they say it's now like a 22-point marketing touch. So your customers have to come across your brand 22 times before subconsciously they think, hey, I should call Houdini and start this service. Now, granted, some of those things, like I said, the customer referral, I think counts as more points because it holds a little bit more weight than, an ad scrolling by in somebody's news feed as you're sitting there bored, just, surfing up and down. But you have to have more touches. It's all awareness. I'm a huge advocate of brand awareness over direct target marketing. William might disagree with me because he's had great success with targeted marketing, but I'm a firm believer in building my brand and building that trust in my brand. And I think that keeps our customers loyal, keeps our churn rate down, and it keeps them as an in-house marketing team that I don't have to pay for.
Which is nice if you're trying to keep lean with the budget.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Melissa says, hello, Mike and Erica. How are you?
Hey, Melissa. Glad you could join us.
Melissa, she's so sweet. All right. Bingo Maverick team. Man, I want to get a Maverick now. I feel left out. All right. Alex says, yes, something that scares me in my 9-year-old go to school in my business is named Mr. Poop. I wonder other kids will laugh at her. They will. My kids get made fun of all the time. And they were like, Erica, why couldn't you have picked a different name? But now when kids make fun of them, Darian will literally say, my stepmom makes more money than your dad. So that's kind of like their little comeback now.
Absolutely. Educate the kids. My stepson was so embarrassed, like when he was in junior high. He's like, don't ever pick me up in your truck, please. And I was like, why? Are you embarrassed? He's like, well, yeah, like it's like the poop truck. I was like, oh, so you're embarrassed that your stepdad owns his own business, which puts a roof over our head and buys all your video games. And once it started to click for him that, hey, this is how we support the family, he got kind of proud. And it was like, he's not proud of the fact that it was poop per se, but like if kids teased him, he'd be like, yeah, well, my dad owns his own business and like he provides jobs for other people. Yeah. And it became like a little flex for him. So, you know your kids best, and obviously you don't want to scar them if it's going to be that traumatizing, but I say educate them, let them know this isn't anything to be ashamed of. Like, this is how we support our family. This is an honest living.
It is. I'm glad that you said that. Educate them, and it's an honest living. When I wrapped the vehicle and I changed the logo and I was on the side of it, the oldest was like, really, Erica? You had to put yourself on the side of it? I'm like, of course I did. That's who I am as a person. So fun.
Absolutely.
All right. Melissa says it's a rainy and stormy time in Texas right now. Stay safe.
Stay safe. That doesn't sound like fun scooping weather.
No. We had a tornado here in Michigan like 2 weeks ago. It's crazy.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it hit. Crystal was out there scooping. Like, she was not supposed to be in that city, but we were a day behind schedule. And then the weather got really, really bad. And then we were all like on our way out, and the tornado happened so fast. There was no sirens, and it hit a house. Unfortunately, there was a casualty. But my
Oh,
my
jeez.
truck over like 2 cities over was swaying side to side, and Crystal said she was flying out of there as fast as possible because she's seen it. She's like, "This, it's gonna get me."
That's scary.
It was really scary for everybody. And there's like Michigan's weather has changed, like the weather pattern. So I guess now we're part of like Tornado Alley, which is crazy because it's pretty chill here in Michigan. Like there's really not a lot of issues.
You think about that in Oklahoma, not Michigan.
Exactly. That's different. All right. Bree says, wait, they're coming out with a glittery green that maybe Houdini needs.
Do I look like the glittery type, Brie? But no, I love it. I don't know. I can't wait to unveil the wrap. It's a little bit flashy, but it's definitely not glittery. And it certainly has that Houdini green vibe. That's all I'm going to say.
Ooh, stay tuned. I can't wait to see it. Speedy Scoop says, hey.
Hey, Speedy Scoop.
All right. And then Melissa says, Texas too with the rocks and the weeds, but you get the snakes hiding, ew, due to the terrain. It's pertinent with weed, eat, and mow. So I got a question for you. What kind of like wildlife do you deal with out in Arizona?
Mostly what we deal with as scoopers is the potential for scorpions, various spiders, some snakes, but not as prevalent because snakes tend to stay more to the wilderness. We avoid a lot of the wildlife because I'm in the suburbs of Phoenix. We are, fifth largest city in the country, so we're not dealing with the desert stuff so much. But people who are out in the desert, you do deal with like bobcats, snakes, javelina, vultures, coyotes, but not too much of it in town. It's more the insects that we have to worry about. And scorpions are a little bit scary. Growing up in the Chicago area and living in Colorado, I don't think I had ever seen a scorpion other than those ugly ones that you would see at the pet stores in the little aquarium tank. So when I first moved here and had one like crawl out of the drain in my shower, I, not going to lie, I jumped and screamed. But you learn to deal with it. I'm personally, I have an irrational fear of snakes. So what Melissa said, like, absolutely terrifies me. I would not walk around in a yard with grass where I'm afraid there's snakes in it.
There was a yard with a snake in it, and I was just scooping, minding my own business, and this big old snake like put its head up, and I freaked out. I yelped. I took off running, and then I took a picture of it and I sent it to my husband. I was like, "There's a bull python in this backyard, and it's gonna attack me." He's like, "Erica, that's a gardener snake." I'm like, "Listen, you can't tell me any different. This thing was going to kill me." But the homeowner seen me running around in her
It doesn't
backyard like
matter
a
what kind
psycho.
it is.
What? Sorry, there's a lag.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what kind it is. They're all death noodles to me.
So gross. All right. Steven says, not all rocks are bad. Pea gravel is great for scooping. I agree. It's like cat litter with a rake.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love pea gravel. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of pea gravel out here. We get a lot of just nasty broken up rock and a lot of river rock, which is the absolute worst because it is slippery and round and all the poop falls in between it. So you have to dig through the rock.
Or you could just kick the rock over top of it. Just kidding. I would never do that.
Could.
All right.
We leave that to those franchise companies that we don't do.
Right. All right. Steven says cracked granite is the worst. I don't think I've scooped that. Have you?
I don't know if I've dealt with it. I don't think I have.
No.
It doesn't sound like it would be fun. Cracked anything doesn't sound like it would be fun to scoop in.
You said you scoop a lot of turf. What's that like? We don't have that here in Michigan, really.
It's either very easy or the most difficult thing in the world, depending on the turf and depending on the consistency of the waste. Good, appropriate pet turf with the right infill, most stuff doesn't stick to it. So it's easy to just grab up piles on, grass that's like this tall. So it's easy to see, scoop it right up. But if dogs have loose stools or you don't have the right kind of turf, that stuff will bake itself in there. And, we live in Arizona. We don't have that wet climate. So when it dries solid. And there are some yards we literally have to hose down the turf and then kind of scrape away at it. Sometimes when the turf is that bad, like if it's the dogs that have like the black tar type feces, it's impossible to clean. And so I'll set that expectation early with the customers, like, hey, we're going to get this as best we can. But there's only so much we can do. This is something that would need to be power washed or cleaned by a professional turf cleaning company that comes in with their power brushes and their steamers and can get this out. But I'm not going to risk damaging their turf trying to dig, baked on piles of tar off of it either.
No, yeah, because it's like one with it. We don't have to deal with that. So it's interesting to hear because we get rain all the time. So it's always wet in Michigan. Is there a delay? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear
You
you.
froze for a second. Hold on. So Bree wrote, she goes,
because Bree's coming up.
oh my gosh. What the F? I'm so sorry that happened. Facebook is a mug. Word of mouth is top tier. Okay, you procs. She's got to go. She'll catch up later. That's so
Peace out, Bree.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out. Hooey? Pride unicorn rainbow. I don't know. Was that like an emoji that's kind of spelt out? Do you think right here with this one? I don't know. That might be.
I'm gonna guess so.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, hooey. And then Melissa says, thanks, Eric and Mike. She's glad to be here to chat. Bree
We're glad
says,
you're here too, Melissa.
Yeah. Bree says you totally look like a glittery guy.
No. Scoop Daddy and Mr. Proc. Okay, no glitter guy.
So speaking of Mr. Proc, when are we going to get some shirts made? Because we need those.
I don't know. We should do it. We need to have like some kind of a convention or something. I know William was talking about the Poop Scoop Millionaire Convention in Vegas sometime next year. Maybe we just show up in force with Mr. Proc shirts.
We should. I was thinking about this today because, the landscapers, they have the like GIE Expo or Equipped or whatever it's called, and they have all these events. And then with the Pooper Scoopers, we really don't have much of anything. We have the one event that happens every 2 years. But I'm like, we need to have something every year. And then what I would really love, because now there's like more people doing social media stuff, having like a section for like the podcasters, because the landscapers have this thing called Pod Row. And I'm like, that would be so sick, having like a Pooper Scooper Pod Row type deal. Whoever, whatever can come and chit chat, and like so much content can be made. We can interact, swap stories. I think that would really like bring this community together and just help us like build.
Right. We have such tight knit little networks between the different groups and like the little clubs, and so many of us are in there, like, and we've never met. Like,
No.
I mean, I've known you for 4 or 5 years now, Erica. Like, I think of you as a friend, and like, yeah, we've never met in person, but I've known you that long that I'm like, why aren't we all getting together? Like, I got to go meet all my peeps from all over the country and really all over the world now. We got people from across the pond and Canada. I know you and Jessica connect every so often. And
Alex.
Yeah,
Alex is from
I got to
Canada.
get
We
out
have
and meet more of these people.
So I've met Jessica. I've stayed at her house. I've met Adam and Lindsay, which that's crazy how I even met them in Tennessee, like randomly. That was like a Jesus thing. I really do feel like that was. Who else have I met in person? I don't know if I have met anybody else in person, but I do. I really feel like I know all of you guys, and I know when I meet you guys in person, I'm probably gonna cry because that's what I do.
Right.
But I remember when I came to.
Well, I joke about.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say I joke about it with my wife because she's like, "Oh, are you talking to your online friends again?" It's like, I've known some of these people more than like some of my in-person friends. So, yeah, I feel like if we ever met up, like everybody's going to like hug and cry, and we're all going to have a blast because we talk all the time, anyways.
It's true. Do you have a lot of in-person friends?
At this stage in my life, no. The older I've gotten, the smaller my circle is. And I'm a big fan of surrounding myself with people that are, positive, supportive, and inspirational to me. And over the years, that weeds a lot of people out. So I prefer to keep my circle small. I do know a lot of people. I have a lot of acquaintances, but very few that I call friends.
No, I agree. I don't have like a big circle of friends. Like most of my friends are literally online, and it's you guys, my pooper scoopers, because you guys, you get it. Like you get it. You understand like the ups and the downs. Yeah.
Right? We all have common ground there, and a lot of other people don't get it. And let's face it, it takes a certain kind of personality to be in this business, and we're the coolest and the funnest. F everybody else.
That needs to be on a shirt. You come up
Right?
with the best stuff. You need to have a line, an entire proc line.
Hey, I used to design t-shirts for a living, so maybe.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So Alex is basically, he's just saying that it's not that busy where he's at, so he has to do lawn care, which I get that because I do talk to Jessica, and she says it's just a lot different over in Canada because us Americans are lazy and we pay for everything.
God bless
Woo!
America.
Heck yeah. All right. And then Daniel wants to know what add-on services do we have in Michigan and Arizona? So do you want to take this one first?
Sure. I've always had a philosophy with my business. I stick to the acronym KISS, which means keep it simple, stupid. So I don't do a whole lot of add-ons. Our base service is pretty much what I call an all-inclusive service. So we clean up, we haul away, and we spray the deodorizer. That's all included in our normal base service. So really the only add-ons we have are if we need to do like a deeper like sanitizing type treatment with like the Wizzy Wash for a little bit more hardcore deodorizing. Going back to the turf that I was telling you about, the biggest drawback to that is when urine gets on it, it gets trapped underneath it in the undersoil and it struggles to evaporate out and it gets grossly stinky. And so even with our weekly, sanitizing, deodorizing spray, it will still smell. So one of the few add-on upsells is that we can come in with the Wizzy Wash and really soak that turf down and get it into the undersoil and get some of those odors out of there. Other than that, we don't really have any other add-ons. There are some random additional fees, like if it's an oversized yard, obviously we charge a little bit extra because it takes longer to patrol. On a case-by-case basis, if a customer asks us for something that we can easily do that I can incorporate in, I might do that, but it's not like I offer it as an add-on. Like we had one lady who was elderly and she really had a hard time just taking her trash from the house out to the curb. And so we set it up so that she could get it and put it outside of her front door. And so we'd clean up the yard and then we'd grab her little bag of trash from the kitchen and go throw it in the bin on the street for her. I could have called it an add-on. She was willing to pay for it, but I was like, no, we're not going to charge some 70-year-old lady to help her get her trash from there from one spot to another. I did pay my technician a little bit extra that, had to do it on that route, but it's just one of those things. Again, customer service is huge to me, and there's just certain customers, I'm dealing with some elderly customers. We have a lot of retirees here in Arizona, and I'm like, I think of it as like, what if that was my grandma? Like, it's not that big. It takes you like an extra 10 seconds to do it. Just get it done. So, I guess that's a long way to answer your question and say virtually we don't really have any other add-ons other than WYSIWASH.
Can we talk about?
What about you, Erica? What do you have for add-ons?
I'm the same. We just scoop. We scoop and go. I don't have any other add-ons. I have the deodorizer, but I don't really like promote it and push it because here's the reason why. I haven't been able to test it out because I don't have an outside water source at my house, and I just have not taken the time to go somewhere else to be like, hey, let's try this. So that's why I want to ask you, can you talk about the WYSIWASH a little bit? What it is and the technique and how you're pricing this?
Well, it's basically a chlorine-based tablet, and it hooks up to the end of the hose, so it just blasts water through there. It's designed for use in like kennels and like dog boarding facilities. That's where I first found out about it before all of the scoopers started using it regularly. It was actually a dog trainer who runs a boarding facility told me about it, and he's like, you really should get this for turf. But it hooks up to a hose. You have to be careful with the way that you word it and sell it, because technically it is a disinfectant, and it is, effective to kill parvo, giardia, all these other common diseases, but it is only effective when it's on a non-porous hard surface, and has enough contact time. So spraying the rock and turf and grass in somebody's yard, it is not a disinfectant. I'm sure it's killing some of it, and it helps reduce the risk, but it is absolutely not a disinfectant. I think it's Larry over at WYSIWASH is the first to tell you that's not its intended use. But it is highly effective against the odors because it does get in there and it kills bacteria. And because you can hook it up to the hose and really soak things, again, you can get it down into that undersoil. It's not just on the surface. It can soak in a good 4 to 6 inches into that soil and get some of the stink out that's down there permeating its way out every time moisture evaporates out of the ground. As far as pricing goes, I know we're a little bit on the higher end compared to what I see a lot of people selling it for. I think a lot of you are selling yourself short, but we basically treat it as its own separate treatment. I don't have WYSIWASH like with all my techs. They're not lugging around a bucket and a hose. So it's something myself or my GM will go out and do a specific trip to go do it. We consider it like a specialty treatment because it is setting up the whole rig, and we really take the time to spray every surface in the yard. So in a standard size yard, we're going to spend a good 30 minutes or so hosing everything down and really giving it a good soaking. So it is a little bit of a time eater. So we have it priced out right now at $49.99 per application. And let's face it, the whole WYSIWASH setup with the tablets and everything's like $300. So
yeah,
I make my money back, 60-fold on that thing. And, we will offer discounts if it's people that have our regular weekly service or 2-time per week service. I'll give them 20% off of those treatments. Or if it's somebody that like they clean up their own dog poop, but they want us to come do this once a month to keep their turf from stinking. If I have them on a recurring once a month or every 2 weeks, I'll give them that 20% discount as well, because it's just the frequency of But either way, it's an absolute gold mine in this industry. And I know some of you guys are only charging, 14-50 bucks for this treatment. And, obviously every market is going to dictate pricing a little bit different and how you approach it. But, I like the idea of keeping it as a specialty treatment, making it a little bit more expensive because it is time spent in that yard. Like I got to hook up the hose. I got to drag that hose around the yard. You got to make sure you're really soaking it because if you just missed everything, you're not doing anything to help that yard. It's just getting it a little bit wet. So spend the time, soak down all the surfaces, let Wizzy Wash do its thing, kill as much bacteria as possible and get that odor out of there, but charge accordingly.
Okay, and I got a question. So you spray the yard. It's not going to kill the grass, right? Okay.
No, it's basically the equivalent of pool water.
All right. Next question. If you are spraying down somebody's patio and somebody has patio furniture, you need to remove that patio furniture like cloth because will it bleach cloth or canopies?
In its diluted form, it should not bleach anything. The concentrate sometimes at the end will bleach stuff. But again, it's the equivalent of pool water. So generally speaking, anything that can be outdoors could handle getting wet with pool water. That being said, I'm never going to intentionally spray down patio furniture. I'll spray around it and under it, but I'm not trying to soak their patio furniture. Likewise, if dogs have, toys or bones or something, we go pick those up and move them to a different area. Like it's supposedly completely non-toxic, but I don't take chances with that. If there's any risk, it'll give them a tummy ache. No, like the dog's safety is a top priority.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, those are good nuggets. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I like that you are pricing it high because it's a specialty service. That's some good information. Yeah. All right, Steven wants to know, have you considered adding deep turf cleaning? He's seeing more and more turf in Utah.
I have considered it many, many, many times, and every time I keep coming back to my KISS acronym and stay in our lane. There are literally companies here that is their specialty, is cleaning turf. It's a different set of equipment. It's a whole learning curve, different liability, because if you damage turf, that is not cheap to replace. I don't want any part of it. I'm sure it's a great fit for somebody who wants to take that on and pet waste removal, but I stick with what got me to this point, and I keep it simple.
No, I feel you. I feel the same way. Every time I think about adding it, I'm like, do I really need to? Like, we're already full. Like, I'm getting ready to have to open up Friday more and like a partial Saturday.
Well, or you got to hire more people.
I want 50 more customers before I hire again. That's what I told myself today. Once I get 50 more, but I just got to get over it. I think I get scared and I get like irritated. I'm like, oh, I got to do this again. And that's something that I have to get over this. It's a me problem.
Yeah. I struggle with it too. Managing employees is a tough thing. It's hard to find people because nobody cares about your business as much as you do. And you almost have to lower your bar of expectation out of what those people are going to give you. And you can give them your all, but they're still just going to give you what they're going to give you.
And I have a hard time with that because even my husband is like, he calls me something that I can't really say on here, but I'm like a sergeant. And I'm like, no, this is the standard. And he's like, it really doesn't have to like be that serious. I was like, to you, it's not serious, but to me, this is how I handle this. And I'm just dissatisfied. And he's like, okay, goodness. But that's how I am with business. And the girls that I have, like, they understand that. They're up to the standard as well. And it's chill. It's easygoing because that's one thing that they told me, or Crystal told me. She's like, you're a great boss. As long as everything's running smoothly and the customers are happy and you're not bothered, we're not bothered. But whenever things mess up and things are going not how I want it, that's when I'm like, okay, Erica's not going to be chill right now. Now we have a problem.
Right.
And I don't like that. I don't like
Well,
that when that happens. Go ahead.
no, but you have to look at that as two ways. You may not like it, but it also is what keeps your business doing as well as it does. You're setting that standard. So there's a fine line between taking things personal and setting a firm boundary. So I try to think of it as I set firm boundaries. I mean, I do take things personal sometimes, but I try to separate the two.
It's hard not to, especially when this is your baby, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When you started it as a one person business and you grow it into something more, it's hard not to, but I think that's part of the growth process is learning how to let go of some of that control and trusting in your people and the systems that you have in place. And, a lot of checks and balances to make sure that things are staying at that standard.
Yeah, that's true. And having peace with it. And like when the accident happened, when Crystal got into the accident, the first time an accident happened, I was like, this is it. My business is done. I got to shut it down. But when the second accident happened, I was like, okay, I have insurance. Crystal's cool. It's fine. And I was able to sleep at night. And so there was a big difference between the like 2 or 3 years of growth that I had personally.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You hit those been there, done that moments, so it doesn't have the same shock value the second time around.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to like kids. Say for instance, I'll go on this little tangent and then we'll talk about Daniel's question. But when Ethan was a teenager, when he was going through the teenage stuff, he did something I freaked out, right? Like lost my mind. We got into a big argument. It was a whole household charade, right? It didn't go well, right? And so when one of the twins did the same thing, I handled it very, very differently. And I remember Darian asked me, he goes, do you not love Ethan? I said, what? I said, why do you ask that? He's like, well, when Ethan did this, you freaked out. With me, it's not that big of a deal. And I had to explain to him that you I learned from my experiences. I learned from my mistakes. And what happened with Ethan, I didn't want to repeat that. And so that's why I was very different with you. And so when people say that like kids get different parents like siblings do, I firmly believe that. And the same thing with the business. Like when the one guy got into an accident, he got a very different version than when Crystal got into the accident.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're all growing and evolving all the time. So the way we handle things is going to be changing.
Yeah, and the business owners that don't grow and they don't adapt, they're the ones that really struggle and then they don't stay in business.
Hey, I've always said if you don't evolve, you go extinct. It's science.
Put it on a shirt. Put it on a shirt.
Right?
All right, Daniel wants to know what makes you stand out from your competitors, from online presence to cleaning the yard.
Um, I think several things. First and foremost, I always go back to that personal relationship that we build with the customers, um, establishing that super high standard of customer service. In the day and age we live in, customer service seems to be like such a rare commodity. Everything's just like whatever. Here's the bare minimum in exchange for money. Blah 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 blah. Like I'm willing to do the extras and to take little financial hits for long-term financial gain is the way I see it. So, I filter that down through all of my employees. When I hire them, we give them a very good wage for what we're doing. I mean, let's face it, picking up dog poop is unskilled manual labor. This could be a minimum wage job. And I know there are scoopers out there that pay that. I don't. I pay my scoopers very well. with the understanding that like, customer service is a top priority. I want you to do this job and take pride in your work. As silly as that sounds, if we're going to pick up dog poop, we're going to be the best at it, and we're going to do it with a smile on our face, and we're going to do those little things to make sure that our customers are happy and getting value out of what they're paying for. That's what keeps them loyal. That's what keeps them from jumping ship to the next guy with a bucket who's $5 a month cheaper than we are. And I push that from top to bottom. Obviously, online presence, branding has a little bit to do with it, but that's not really what makes me stand out from my competitors. That's what helps me get noticed from my competitors initially, but it all falls back to that level of customer service. And basically go out there and under promise and over deliver. Jim Caniglione, the king of poop, gave me that advice years ago when I started, and it is
We love Jim.
so absolutely true. Just exceed your customers' expectations. That is what will keep you head and arm above all of your competition, because a lot of people just do the bare minimum they need to do to get paid. Don't be that guy.
Right. We show up. That's a big one because a lot of companies around us will still charge and then not show up. And then communication. That's the biggest one for us. We have a very strong communication. And if there's any issues with the dog, issues with the gate, if we need to move the route around, we will let them know, hey, we're a day behind schedule. But realistically, if you're a day behind, you're a day and a half behind. That's my personal opinion, because it's never just a day. And so I think that's what really sets us apart, because here in Michigan, contractors and home service providers in general, the communication is absolutely terrible.
Communication is key. That's part of that personal relationship and level of customer service. Like, and it's not hard. Just communicate. Like, I don't know. It's a weird world we live in where people just have a hard time communicating basic courtesies. Like, hey, we're running late today, but we're still going to be there. I'll give you a text when we're 15, 20 minutes away. Like, it doesn't take long to convey that message, rather than waiting for a customer to call you and say, hey, your guy's usually here by now and I haven't seen him. Are you guys still coming today? Don't let that happen. Be proactive and communicate with them first.
Yeah, but have you ever had it where it's like 12:15 and they're like, hey, are you guys still coming? And it's like, it's only 12 o'clock. Like, the day is only halfway through.
I do. Our setup's a little bit different than a lot of you guys, because we actually have an approximate time that we give them rather than just a day. And we try to stick to that schedule. I mean, I do set the expectation, like, this is your approximate time. Please allow us up to an hour before or after. So essentially, we're giving them roughly a 2-hour window of when we're going to be there, which I think, again, is great customer service, because the cable guy is like, hey, I'm going to be there sometime between 8 and 5. And if you're not home, you have to reschedule your appointment.
Facts.
I don't want to hold people hostage. They got to have their dogs in or anything like that for us. They need to know when we're going to be there so they can be home. So we kind of limit it to like the 2-hour window. And if we're going to fall outside of that because we're running behind, that's where I just start texting customers like, hey, we're running a behind schedule today, but we're still going to get to you. Sorry for the delay. And then most of them are like, oh, no problem. Thanks so much for letting me know. But again, it's that touching the customer. We communicated with them. They got a message directly from the owner. They know they can text me back. And that's everything. That's what makes us stand out. That's what keeps our customers, coming back for more. It's having that personal relationship and having just good foundational communication that cannot be stressed enough.
That's solid. I do have a question for you. So we're at about an hour and 14 minutes. What is your timing looking like?
Probably need to wrap it up here in about 15 more minutes. I know my dogs and my kiddo and my wife are all waiting to have dinner. It's creeping up on the 5:30 mark our time, so it's coming up on dinner time here.
Okay. All right. You guys that are in the chat right now, I can either ask him about, we can talk about, do you guys want to hear about trademark? Let me know down in the comments if you guys want to know about trademark. While I'm waiting for that, I'll ask you 2 questions. Are you paying your employees per stop or an hourly wage?
We are paying them an hourly wage now. Um, I started originally as per stop because I wanted them to have the potential to earn more money by working harder and more efficiently. But in hindsight, after talking to some former employees on their way out, a lot of them felt pressured,
Yeah.
like they felt like they needed to get more done faster to earn a better hourly rate. Like to the point that they were afraid to take restroom breaks and stuff like that. And I was like, no, like I've never cracked the whip. Like it's always just been, I do this so that you can actually, if you go getter, you can make more money for yourself. But as soon as I heard it was having some negative effects on people, I decided, you know what, let's try hourly out, see how it goes. So it does to an extent limit their earning potential, but we kind of counterbalance that with like bonuses and things if people are exceeding expectation. And then what that does is now we have a minimum pace that they have to keep. And if they're not able to attain that, they're underperforming in their job duties. So it kind of went from being a positive reward into now we've just got to set a baseline of, I need you to be able to keep this pace or you're not living up to expectations. I don't really like that so much, but it seems to work out better for the employees. And again, we're always helping to coach and get people up to that level of efficiency. But I don't want people milking the clock and taking their sweet time, dragging their feet in yards. Because if they're moving that slow, like I'm losing money by paying them to clean yards for me.
It's true. That's true. Off the top of your head, do you know what your base price is for like your base subscription model that you're charging the customer?
Yeah, I mean, we do a prepaid monthly. So we don't break it down by week per se. But for our base service, one time per week, $79.99 per month, which includes the cleanup, the haul away, and the deodorizing treatment for up to 2 dogs in a standard sized yard.
What's your standard size yard?
I think if I do generally like 1/8 of an acre or less.
Okay.
There's not a specific, I haven't drawn a line in the sand per se, but living in Phoenix, most of the homes are cookie cutter suburban homes, so they all have about the same sized yard. Or you go into the really fancy neighborhoods and then they have a yard that's like 6 times as big as the rest of them. So those ones are going to be paying that oversized yard fee, and they know it right off the bat because it just takes that much more time to patrol. Thankfully, we don't have too many of those rural ones. Like I see some of these people like, what would you price this house at? It's like 3.5 acres. And I'm like, how many hours does that take to walk?
I would price it for 3.5 hours. That's what I would price it. It would be a half a day's rate, and I'd probably be charging them, what is it, 80 times 3.5? What are we, like $400? And then they're not going to take me up on the offer.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Exactly.
Well, let's briefly touch on the trademark. I want to do that because this is something that you've had a lot of issues with because people steal your stuff all the time. So what is a trademark and why is it important?
I mean, trademark is basically taking a national claim to your brand. So for example, we have the Pudini name trademarked. Nobody in the pet service industry can use that. So it's a process to get done, but you file through the United States Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO. Sorry to all of you people in Canada and across the pond. This doesn't apply to you. But we can file for the trademark, and that secures it so that that name becomes your property. So other people cannot use it. Unfortunately, we live in a world where people aren't all that creative. I mean, there's some amazingly creative people out there, but a lot of people lack any kind of creativity and will just look online till they find something and they will go steal that name and use it. I don't want to cause a stink amongst our groups, but I can handpick like 4 different people I know that have the same company name. And I'm like, whichever one of you trademarks it first, the other 3 are going to be really pissed off. But it's important because it secures that name. So as you mentioned, I've had to deal with it. I check regularly. I just do searches for Poodini, see what's out there, see who's using the name. And I can't tell you how many times I've found companies in other parts of the country that have popped up and they're Poodini pet waste removal, Poodini pooper scooper, any of those. And I'm cool about it. I try to reach out to them in a very friendly way. Hey, just wanted to let you know, Poodini is my national trademark. I wanted to catch you early on now before you have time to build up a clientele. But you are going to have to change that name. You legally don't have the rights to use it. And most of the time, they're very apologetic, very quick to get it changed and start over. Sometimes they give me pushback because they're like, well, you're all the way in Arizona and I'm in Ohio, so it doesn't matter. And I'm like, but it's a national trademark, meaning I have it everywhere. And so if they push back too much, then I hand it over to my lawyer and they start sending cease and desist letters. And it gets ugly. And I don't like to have things get ugly, but I've worked really hard to build my brand, and the trademark ensures that nobody can use my brand without me personally signing off on it. So all of you out there, if you have a creative name and it's not already trademarked, if it is already trademarked, you better change your name already anyways. But I cannot recommend enough that you go through the process and get your trademark and get it done early. Protect the future of your company.
How much does a trademark cost?
It depends on if you pay lawyers or accountants to get that done, or if you do it yourself. If I remember correctly, the actual just filing fees, if you do it yourself, right around $500. Don't quote me on that. It's been, I think, 6 or 7 years since I filed my trademark. So it may have changed, but it's honestly, it's not that pricey for the value it adds. It is a lot of paperwork and it's a process because you have to file certain things and then they have to get published. So it gives people time to challenge it. So, say 2 people both had been using Poodini and I go to file the trademark and they can prove that they've been using the Poodini name in business since before I was, they can challenge that trademark. So you have to go through the process to make sure that you legally have the rights to do it. But once you get it and it's approved, it's yours. And as long as you stay on top of your 5-year refiling and renewing it, it's yours forever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah, cool. And then Corey says that William should add something like that to the group. I think he is going to, because he does have a trademark lawyer and there is a lawyer in the group. But I'll double check with him to see if that's something that will be available, because it's important. You need to protect your brand. And as we know in the group, like Anthony's videos keep getting stolen and put into like massive YouTuber videos. And I know your stuff has been popping up all over the place. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's insane. People will just, I can just right click it and save, so it's free, but it's not. That's copywritten property.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well,
I dealt with as a graphic designer.
Oh, I know. You were a graphic designer before you were Pooper Scooper, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. See that?
Yeah.
That's all me.
Oh, you.
Although I will say I recently did a brand touch up, and I did bring in Adam from Brand Ready Designs. He's obviously amazing at what he does. And quite frankly, when I built this logo, I did it fast because it was a weekend job, and I've never touched it since. And I realized I probably was never going to update it myself because now I'm busy running my scooping business and not being a graphic designer. So reached out to Adam, had him give us a quick refresh. Basically kept our brand and our logo intact. He just cleaned up some of the messier pieces and fine-tuned it for me, and did a tremendous job. So if you don't have a good graphic designer or branding guy, go get you one. It's invaluable.
Yeah, he did my rebrands and everything. So yeah, if you guys are looking for somebody to do a brand, definitely give Adam a check. And then if you guys are looking for help to grow your pooper scooper business, start your pooper scooper business, definitely check out Pooper Scooper Millionaire. I'll include those links down in the show notes. If the audience wants to get in touch with you, if they want to do some coaching with you or just, chat, how can our viewers get in touch with you?
Well, those of you who are in Scoop Club know how to find me. You know the proc. Which we probably need to talk about that. There's people in the group that still don't know what the proc is. But we'll circle back to that in a minute. So you can find me on there. I'm a moderator on Poop Scoop Millionaire. That being said, technically, I don't coach through Poop Scoop Millionaire. I feel like that would be a conflict of interest because I am a moderator on the site. It wouldn't be fair to the other coaches if I was coaching on there. So if you want to get a hold of me for coaching in any capacity, it's going to have to be outside of Poop Scoop Millionaire. Find me on Scoop Club, contact me through the Poodini website, and we'll talk. I'll be honest with you, coaching is not my top priority because I'm very busy running my own business as well as these groups. But I'll always make time for people. I'll talk to people, answer what I can. If I have the capacity to coach and mentor, we can talk about that and what that would look like.
All right, cool. Yeah, and I'll include your links down below. And then before we hop off, we have to tell the proc story. So let's hop into it real quick.
For those of you who don't know the story behind proc, I'm sure you've seen it around. It's pretty much become one of my monikers on every platform that we have. All started with an irate former member of our group on Facebook. He basically engaged in some things in the group that were very much against the rules of the group, and he had been warned multiple times, kept doing it. So we booted him from the group. Simple as that. You broke the rules, you're out. And he messages me trying to be kind of nice at first. And he's like, hey, did you remove me from the group? Like, blah, 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 trying to justify his actions. So I reiterated, hey, you violated the rules. We've talked to you about it a couple times before. You did it again. You knew what the consequence would be. So we had to remove you. And all of a sudden, he just goes off on this explicative-filled tirade, calling me every name in the book. He's so mad. And you can see him stewing from like one line to the next. And then he ends it and he's like, well, F you, you proc. And then even does the little asterisk to correct it to the appropriate name, that like what a cactus would do to you, it'll prick you. And so it was one of those things. I generally don't put people on blast, but I did want people in the group to know because some of them were still doing this side business with him. And I'm like, I screenshot it and I was like, hey, I don't normally put people on blast, but look at the way I responded to him and how he attacked me. Entirely up to you if you want to continue to do business with this guy. And everybody noticed the typo and it became an inside joke. And forever since, I'm going to be known as Proc or Mr. Proc. And we want t-shirts and people want to put like I Heart Proc and things like that. But it's a great story. And that's how the Proc came to be.
I feel like when we have like the Scoop convention, your name tag needs to say Proc on it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I told William, that I want like a Poop Skill Millionaire hoodie, but I want it to say proc on the back like a jersey.
That's so good. That's quality content right there. Well, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for sharing the story, and thank you for taking the time to hang out with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I know it's been long overdue. We finally made it happen.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end the stream. Don't you hang up yet because it needs to like process and render on your end. And then Scoop Master
Okay.
said Poop Scoop Millionaire rocks. Thank you, Erica and Mike. The studio is fire. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Corey, Alex, everybody, Steven, that all hung out. So we appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you guys. See you around in the groups.
All right, we'll chat soon. Bye.